Sistas Talk Podcast. My name is Diddy M, and my co-host.
We weren't encouraging the schools to do that, but we are also not discouraging.
It's been a while since I've seen you guys.
We really support
today we're
their
fully loaded.
decision,
You can see
and they're just working to support the broader community in that.
Hidalgo says now the focus is on next week. Keep doing what you're doing. Wash your hands, avoid large crowds, and practice social distancing. A piece of good news.
All right, so who do we have standing in front of us?
Harris County.
All right, my name is Micah. I'm
doing
senior
well.
from
They're
Spring
not
High
officially
School.
recovered
I'm going
until
to
you
St.
get
Houston
2
this fall.
negative test results, and I don't
future
think we've quite
entrepreneur,
gotten the
getting
2
into
yet.
things like
But
that,
we do have
and
folks who are,
that's
feeling good.
my take.
Oh wow, that's dynamic. That's a big
Right
deal.
now, there are 6 cases in Harris County. Some of those confirmed by local testing,
now.
others
Come on.
by this week. If more cases are announced, we'll let you know.
Now, who's sitting behind
Thank
you?
you so much, Chanel Beluto,
My
reporting
name is
live for
Jennifer
us
Smith. I
tonight.
am the founder of the Achieving Academy Life Skills Training School.
Awesome. Now we've had you in last year.
Yes.
Yeah, when
she
you
came and celebrated with us this
That's
year.
right. That's right. So welcome back. Welcome
Thank you.
back. Awesome. And who do we have sitting across from you?
I'm Heaven Ingram. I'm from Spring High School.
Make sure you're talking right into the mic. Give that to us one more time. Junior. All right.
Now at 6, 2 big stories you need to know about to start your day. We're tracking a big crash on I-45. And of course, all eyes on Washington after President Trump's impeachment.
The House voted along party lines
we
to
have a lot
impeach
of
the
stealth
president
going
last
on.
night. I'm going to break down a reaction to that vote coming up in a few minutes. For now, we're asking you to weigh in on our live survey.
do.
Do you agree with President
Despite all
Trump's
of the
impeachment?
challenges
Head to
that we have.
KHOU.com/vote now to weigh in.
And here at home, we are tracking a deadly wrong-way crash.
That's how you know Sistas Talk Podcast is
right
dynamic.
now.
When all
About
four
that, I
special
want to
guests
show
show
you a
up
live look
on
at
a
our
day,
Houston
they tell us it's a
camera
state emergency.
at the scene.
You know what I mean?
At 2 o'clock this morning. That is southbound
Like,
Florida.
we
That's where you are having to exit the freeway.
There's a
You
video.
are
I think
jammed
it's a
on
video
the
Heaven
feeder
sent
road.
me. It
Do
was
not
like-
take it.
the
At this
dude
point,
said
I
he
would
was
say
like,
just avoid it. But if you have to
I'm a
stay
homebody
very
anyway,
close
so I
to
stay
this
home. But
freeway,
once you tell me to stay home, now I want to go out.
Otherwise, if you're going to Bush Airport, do not take the North
So how do
Freeway.
y'all feel with
Use the Hardy
everything
Toll
that's
Road
going on in
instead.
society
And
right
as far
now?
as what
Politicians
exactly
out,
happened
not
there
sure what we're
overnight,
gonna
we want to
do
get
down
to
to white
Michelle
baby?
Choi live.
Baby white?
Michelle, what is the latest?
No, don't take from the babies.
Steph, I got to start by saying this
I
is
can
just
definitely
an
say
awful scene. Right now, deputies are investigating 2 separate crashes,
they are
all
overreacting to
caused
something
by
that we
one
don't know.
wrong-way driver.
Yes,
That's
we
right.
have.
The scene you are looking at behind me right now is the second deadly crash he caused. Right now, you can see the scene is still being processed. The 2 cars still here. I'm told the Chevy Impala is the car that wrong-way driver was in. Now, guys, this all started just before 2:30 this morning when deputies say a man driving the wrong way here on the southbound lanes of the North Freeway sideswiped one car, sending that car spiraling across the freeway up a concrete divider. Miraculously, I'm told the driver of that car is okay. As far as the wrong way driver, deputies say after that crash, he kept going for more than half a mile when he crashed head-on into another car, killing the front passenger instantly. Now, I'm told that passenger was in a white Dodge Charger. As for the driver, he was taken to the hospital with head injuries, but deputies say he was walking and talking at the time. But here's what's even more heartbreaking. I've learned the 2 were actually cousins. Now, as for the wrong way drivers, officials say, back out here live, guys, again, he was in this Chevy Impala. He's also at the hospital this morning. I spoke with Sean Tier with the Harris County DA's office, who is here on scene helping deputies this morning. He believes that this driver may have been drinking and driving.
I did read about that.
Erica?
That's what we were talking about.
In Dallas,
Okay,
right?
let's talk about temperatures this morning because we are waking up to our second morning in a row of almost an area-wide freeze. Temperatures right now at Bush, 32 degrees, so it's our second morning in a row, and even lots of 20s out there this morning. So you're going to need several layers for the children as they're heading to school this morning. The good news is that we still are in the 50s by this afternoon, so we'll warm up somewhat and be near 60 degrees by this afternoon. Still below average. Rain chances return tomorrow with the next system system I'm tracking, but so do some cooler temperatures. So I'll talk about that cool down and what your Christmas forecast looks like coming up in the
That's
forecast.
really irresponsible.
All right, Erica, thank you. Well, let's get to breaking news from overnight. A water heater explodes and catches a home on fire. This happened in Northeast Houston. Firefighters showed up to find smoke coming from the duplex. They quickly got the fire out and everyone made it out okay. Most of that damage, though, was on the back porch. Not a tragedy in Northeast Houston. A woman was killed in a house fire last night. Firefighters say the woman was trapped inside. Investigators believe she had trouble getting around. They're still looking into how that fire actually started.
At 6:03, we want to give you a live look at Capitol Hill, where in a history-making moment last night, House lawmakers voted to impeach President Trump. He is only the third president in history to be impeached. The House charged him with abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. More than 200 lawmakers debated, laying out their arguments. And while they did that and then voted, President Trump held a campaign rally in Michigan and lashed out at Democrats.
You are the ones bringing pain and suffering to our republic.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi suggested she might temporarily hold off on sending the impeachment articles to the Senate. She says the Senate needs to set ground rules first before she can name House managers to oversee the trial. And here's a quick look at how those votes went down. On the first article of impeachment, 2 Democrats voted no, 1 President. None of the Republicans voted yes. And on the second, looks pretty similar, with an extra Democrat adding a no vote. No Texans crossed party lines on the vote. In fact, when it came time to weigh in, Congressman John Ratcliffe added a little note to his vote saying if there was ever a time to do it, this was it. As for the president's reaction, he didn't tweet anything about the vote after he was officially impeached, but his Twitter feed is loaded with retweet after retweet of Republicans who are pretty fired up about it. And when we shared the news on our Facebook page, hundreds of you commented, sides are drawn, we know that. On the top here, you see some of the most common arguments for the president, that he's done so much good for the country, that there's not enough evidence, this guarantees he'll win in 2020. On the bottom here, it's the other side, saying he had it coming, worrying about the Senate trial. Even Christmas came early this year. Now, our impeachment coverage continues throughout the morning at 6:15. Our Verified team is going to look into what you can expect during that Senate trial. And at 6:30, I'm answering your questions about the process. Remember to go over to khou.com to vote in that live survey.
All right, Brandy, thank you. Your Rush Block continues with today's other big stories, starting with the shooting at a San Antonio mall.
To protect older medically
This morning, the search is on for 5 gunmen. Police say they shot 4 people leaving South Park Mall. 2 victims' injuries are serious. The cause of that shooting, still unknown.
So I get that.
People lined the streets here at the police department and outside City Hall as that procession made its way into town. It was led by a stream of motorcycle officers leading Sergeant Sullivan's body towards the police department. She was carried by motorcycle sidecar because she was the national president of the Sisters Eternal Women's Motorcycle Club. Police officers from as far away as New York City helped escort her, and people came out to pay their respects. The mayor proclaimed December 29th as Sergeant Kayla Sullivan Day to tie in with her anniversary of when she joined the department.
Caution parents. A Houston firefighter sharing his story after his son Aiden grabbed a hot pot off the stove. The 16-month-old had 2nd and 3rd-degree burns and needed a skin graft. Michael Brown now reminding parents to put pots on back burners and turn the handles in. U.S. or North Korea? Not both. The call from Senate lawmakers in Washington to President Trump on a new bill. It requires sanctions on North Korean imports and exports and punish banks that do business with the communist country. The stage is set for the final Democratic debate of the year. Tonight, 7 candidates will square off at Loyola Marymount University, including frontrunners Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, and Elizabeth Warren.
And that's your Rush Block. Today's big headlines here in Houston and around the world. Let us know what's happening in your neighborhood. Just tweet us with that hashtag HTownRush. Now let's get over to Erica for the one thing you need to know in weather.
Anybody else. It's just simply not fair. It's not humane. And we have to, I think in moments like this, what it shows us is that we are really savage at the root of us all. Oh, yeah. All right? To the next level. And so I think that we need to work on that.
The process of 2 things becoming one. Like when the right renter and the perfect home are joined.
We're going to have to learn to calm down, number 1.
Toby's a cow.
And number 2, think.
Apartments.com, change your apartment, change the world.
Right? These are like really basic things that you think about, but in a moment of fear and chaos, you're like, oh my God, I want to survive. But it's so much bigger than that. Yeah. We all want to survive, right?
Yeah, and it just shows, like, I know everybody sees those end of the world movies, I'm like, the chaos there is looking like the chaos in like
Yeah.
American society would be dealing with. So I'm just like, we really, please work on it.
Yeah.
And I mean, work on it from the top down.
And that's like remember the I don't know if y'all remember this, but remember the Y2K?
Yeah.
Like everybody
all the water was gone.
Yes, like everybody was stocking up, like getting their little bunkers and all of that, and canned goods. And then
that year, water and canned goods.
Like everybody thought Armageddon was coming. When were y'all born? Look, I don't even remember. I don't know what y'all.
That was before their time.
Yeah, I was like, y'all probably wasn't around then, but it was crazy. Like they were like, okay, when it becomes 12 o'clock, like it's the world going to end. What's happening?
They did say that, yeah.
So people were thinking that, and we were like, I know for me it always goes back to the word of God.
Right.
The word of God said he gonna come like a thief in the night. That's what my mom.
You'll never know.
Yeah, that's what my mom told me. I remember I was a teenager. My mom was like, these people running around here, going to the grocery store trying to hurry up and get stuff. The Lord say he coming like a thief in the night.
But that's what, and that's true. Like when we talk about that, like faith over fear, being prepared over panic, and so just moving from that anxiety and that. Like we said, things you can't control, fear and worry. So like with a lot of clients that I'm getting, you seeing a rise in therapy, like online therapy. People are like, oh my gosh, my anxiety, and either they can't get their meds, or I'm not sure what's happening at the hospitals or the doctors because they're tied up. But you're seeing a rise in people wanting to clock into therapy, which I think is awesome because I've been,
winning.
Please help, but
at the same time,
just like calming it down and de-escalating. Like, what are you really in control of? What can you do within your family and your neighborhood? And then if you have a role in the community or the government, what can you do within that? Other than that, you
can't really control it.
Exactly.
But what's more, there was something I was thinking about because I saw an article about it. Even though all this stuff started in China and stuff like that, right? They are doing by far the best at handling this. Like I'm talking about, I think they put them on like a 59-day quarantine. Everybody on 59-day, even if you didn't have a 59-day isolation, and legit went around cities and sterilized things you probably wouldn't even think about people touch.
Right.
Sterilized it, and then they got I heard like Canada. Like they got it all under control in like 2 hours.
See,
they're pretty clean anyway.
Canada's already pretty clean.
They don't play those.
And so they got it clean in 2 hours. And they're making jokes like, "Dang, when you take their hockey from Canada, they get down to business." but that shows like how divided we are as a country.
Right.
We really are divided, and
absolutely.
it's just like you see countries who like Canada. Canada really isn't divided as people think. They're all one nation, and they work together to get a common problem out the way. And so that's where I would want to see this country go as far as epidemics like this. Yes, it was a mistake by Trump to make that decision, right? But as a country, we got to stand on that, and we got to be together on that. So we can't put all the fault on him.
For sure.
I don't. Now personally. I'm not saying using that as kind of like a scapegoat for things he did. I'm not using that as a scapegoat as God, I like him. No, I'm not saying that. But as a country, as we want to move up, we got to take accountability.
And that's
exactly.
what I'm saying. Like, what can you do within the role that you're in to make this?
Y'all making me proud over here. I'm serious.
You see, I'm quiet. I'm proud.
I'm so very proud because it needs to be. People need to hear that from a teenager, somebody that's you're gonna be our next people to step into these real roles that can make real life changing decisions for all the rest of us, for all of us.
And it's sad that teenagers have to see that, and people who we look up as role models don't see that as well.
Right.
And you're supposed to be above us. We're supposed to be the ones looking up to you. If it gets to the point where teenagers can't even look up to you no more, what are y'all to us?
Newsflash. So you guys are a lot more mentally powerful than the rest.
Most definitely.
And so with that information that you guys already know about yourselves, it's your responsibility as well. With that information that you have been blessed with, to utilize that in the best way.
Y'all are definitely more innovative.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially on Twitter, because I go through Twitter a lot, and I see the different type of people my age and different topics they're bringing up. There's topics that even adults don't bring up.
Right.
Like, if you want to think about the STAR test, the STAR test. There's a teenager my age. She was one of the main reasons why they canceled the STAR test for this year, because she brought it up to the state commission that this is the time of the year where they get started trying to go over the test materials, getting ready for the STAR test. Now we're out of school for another week, so how is that going to impact us as children and people who's younger than us? I know for me, I don't have to take a STAR test no more. I'm done with it. But I have things that like AP tests. You used to have to take yours? Yeah, so she still have to take hers, but I have to take my AP test, which is by College Board and stuff like that. And so as teenagers, we are stepping up to the plate because we see that adults can't do it.
And they're simply not doing it.
And it's simply not doing it. It is just that simple, though. As teenagers, if we see, and I remember thinking about, because I think about things very vividly and think about things very to a bigger stand of what it really is. Teenagers, I thought about it as once this next generation come up to step, this world will be a lot more, it'll be much better because we as teenagers see things and we want to be more innovative in changing things the way how it is.
Right.
And, like for example, STAR test. A girl was the main person who started that topic, not an adult, not the president, not the governor, none of that stuff. A teenager, a girl, a one dot in the universe, started the talk of the STAR test needs to be canceled, and they just canceled it. And
so what I will say, and I'll test that, like even just coming from education and being in education for over 14 years, we want y'all to do that. Like that's the whole purpose of a good educator, of a good parent, of a good role model, to pour into you that it trickles down. To be honest with you, if you're in education, your hands are really tied. So a lot of times there's a lot of responsibility on us where we are trying to push it out in the community like, wink, wink, we can't do anything because we're legally bonded by contract. So we can't speak out on certain things. The only thing we can do is say, hey, when we talk to parents, if you guys have an issue, and some of us could actually lose our jobs with that too, but just saying, hey, if you have a problem with STAR testing, can you contact your representative? Like, we can throw little nuggets out to y'all, but then it's really up to the community, or it's up to the parents to follow through on that, which is why in education we're always pushing for parent involvement. In some areas you don't have parental involvement, so it's kind of like you're gridlocked, so you're stuck in. And so we try to tell you all things kind of on the slide to where, because we still got to survive, so we can't just be like, there's some lobbying done, pay cuts being taken away if you speak out against certain things, which is why you all have a mind that is wider than ours, just beyond, and that is so awesome. And that's why I like working with teens, because of the way that you all think, because you all were born to think outside of the box, whereas we're coming up, we were like, okay, you get a job, you go to college or the military, you get a job and you stay in a job 60 years and then you retire and then whatever. But you guys, y'all coming out of kind of in high school. Like my daughter, she has a t-shirt company. She does hair. I mean, so you guys are coming straight out of like middle school already. Like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and it's the freedom to be able to do that. So I have so much respect for you all, and I'm proud of y'all for that. Because y'all kind of letting us out.
This is a great segue to talk about the life skill class that Jennifer Smith owns, the Achievement Academy.
The Achievement Academy, yeah. So the Life Skills Training School, I mean, it's been around for a little while, just more internal and just trying to grow. And I've been doing independent workshops, things like that. And so the first time I was on, I was talking about it. I'm really excited. Unfortunately, because of everything going on, I will have to cancel or postpone, I should say, the one for March 28th, just for the safety of our kids, the community, and things like that. But one of the reasons why I brought Micah and Heaven here is because they're two of the students in the program, and this pilot program is getting ready to launch for the virtual training. And so they're able to kind of speak on some of the things that I go to them as well. And Micah, he's been in this program for 6 years maybe. This is my son, but I've taken a lot of good information from him and a lot of good information from family and teens and friends that's in his age group. And so we started probably in junior high. Like, okay, what's your views? What are some of the things that they're not teaching? Because I'm not there in class. So I can only, hear what they tell me. If they tell me what's going on, excuse me. But for the most part, it's all about, okay, what are you not getting? What questions do you have? And we have a really, really open relationship where it's like, okay, tell me what you don't, or ask me, is there something that you don't really know, or is there something that I could be helping you with? Because a lot of times, and I've said it before, as parents, we do our best, right? But we can only do and give advice and help sometimes to our own capacity.
Hi, my name is Jessica.
My name is Christy.
Just 5 years ago, I was stuck.
Through United Way Thrive, I was able to get a career.
They had other auxiliaries like aid meetings and parenting classes.
With United Way Savings Matching Program, I learned how to build my credit and save up.
They got me into classes and I got my GED.
I don't think I would be here today if it wasn't for the United Way.
Live from the KHOU 11 studios, H-Town Rush starts right now.
Now at 6, tributes pour in for a fallen Houston police officer. People across the country really sharing their condolences after Sergeant Chris Brewster was killed in the line of duty.
The man accused of killing Sergeant Brewster is set to face a judge in just a few hours. We are live at the courthouse, and around the same time, there's going to be a procession for the fallen hero. We'll keep you up to speed on all of this as it happens on KHOU.com and your mobile app.
For now, we want you to share your prayers and thoughts for Brewster's family and brothers in blue. You can tweet us with the hashtag H-Town Rush, and we will have team coverage on this story coming up. But first, Erica's going to kick off the Rush block, and you can say all morning changes are coming.
Yeah, that's right. And it kicks off with a very warm start to our work week, but then we're tracking a strong cold front that will be pushing through overnight tonight to tomorrow. So this morning, you do not need a winter coat. You do need to keep an eye out for some patchy fog out there because of the high humidity, calm winds. As you're heading to the bus stop, low visibility is possible. But notice, we warm up to the 80s this afternoon, 15 degrees above average, breezy, muggy. Take a look at the temperatures plummeting. That's the cold front moving through Houston by about 3 a.m. Tomorrow morning, big changes. And then tomorrow afternoon, it's going to get even colder and wet weather expected with this front. I'll chat about it in the full forecast.
All right, Erica, decent-sized crash popping up there, and the backup is starting to bubble back to the East Freeway. So this is your East Tech southbound side. At least one lane is blocked out of camera frame. You may even see 2 lanes blocked. Fire department has arrived on scene, and they just backed up this car involved. So this is going to put pressure on your drive as you head towards the North Freeway. No need for an alternate route just yet. I just want you to keep an eye on things. Overall picture is very quiet out there.
I'm super hard with her. Like, I'm super hard.
A lot of people just take the whole month off. Aren't they lucky? I'm not seeing the typical slowing that we would normally see, except here on this East Freeway, eastbound side.
She's like, let me chill for a second. Yeah, she's like, let me chill, but that's
all right, Steph, thank you. Breaking overnight, a volcano erupts in New Zealand, killing at least 5 people and hurting several others. Close to 24 people are still missing. You can see the tower of ash in the sky. The victims were part of a tour group visiting an island off the coast of New Zealand when the eruption happened. Police say the site is too dangerous for rescuers to search the area. We'll have a full report ahead at 6:30. Also breaking, multiple cars crashed in North Houston after a possible road rage shooting and possible kidnapping. Officials say 2 suspects were chasing a driver who crashed on Airline Drive trying to get away. The suspects walked up to that victim and fired shots into the car. That driver hasn't been found yet. It's unclear if he was hit by any of those gunshots. Other drivers heard the gunshots and sped up to get out of the area before crashing into another car.
That's something I didn't really like, and that's something my mom didn't like.
Accused of killing HPD Sergeant Chris Brewster is due back in court. Arturo Solis is charged with capital murder. Our Michelle Choi is live at the courthouse with more on what we know about Solis. Michelle?
And, like she said before.
Brandy, those close to Solis describe him as extremely violent. In fact, his ex-girlfriend, the mother of his daughter, told us she knew it was only a matter of time before Solis would do something like this. Take a look. This is the latest mugshot of 25-year-old Arturo Solis taken Saturday night. Now, just hours earlier, prosecutors say Solis shot 32-year-old Sergeant Chris Brewster multiple times in an East Houston neighborhood while the HPD officer was investigating a domestic disturbance. They say it happened when he tried to get Solis' attention, and that at the time, Sergeant Brewster did not have his gun drawn. Investigators say Solis confessed to shooting Sergeant Brewster. He's now charged with capital murder. and court records show he has a lengthy criminal history. Solis is expected to go before a judge at 8:30 this morning. We'll be sitting in the courtroom for that and pass along any new information as soon as we learn more. Brittany. Michelle, thank you. Law enforcement agencies from all over the country are remembering Sergeant Brewster and sending thoughts and condolences to Houston police. This one came from Chicago. And this week from the Major Cities Chiefs Association asked folks to keep the entire HPD family and Chief Art Acevedo in your thoughts and prayers as they mourn this tragic loss. Our chief is the president of that organization. Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez tweeted this thread, writing, Sergeant Brewster showed tremendous bravery till his final breath. There are no words at a time like this. We're simply left in awe of his heroism and selfless service. Now, obviously, there is a great amount of interest across the nation in attending Sergeant Brewster's services. Chief Acevedo tweeted out last night outlining the services. So the visitation is scheduled for Wednesday. The funeral service is tentatively scheduled for Thursday. That's December 12th, not December 13th. Today, he'll start his journey to his final place of eternal rest. His HPD brothers and sisters will be with him and his family every mile and every step of the way. So that police escort starts at 9:15 this morning. KHOU plans to stream that on KHOU.com as well as on our mobile app. The visitation is on December 11th, and his funeral is set for Thursday, December 12th. We have a full timeline of Saturday night's deadly shooting and a link to ways you can help the fallen officer's family on KHOU.com. We also have a post on our Facebook page. That's where you can share your condolences with them and Brewster's fellow officers.
Let's give you a live look now in Washington, D.C., where the impeachment inquiry will be center stage again this morning. Democratic and Republican lawyers will present their evidence for and against impeaching President Trump. The White House, however, will not be present. The chairman of the House Intelligence Committee could bring articles of impeachment against the president this week. Meanwhile, the ongoing battle between lawmakers outside the House chamber rages on.
This is precisely the kind of conduct the founders were most concerned about when they provided the remedy to impeachment.
And that's what I want these kids to know. And
in the House, it's going to go to the Senate, it's going to go nowhere.
For the kids,
a reminder, today's hearing starts at 8 a.m. Houston time, and we will carry that for you live on air on KHOU.com and also on our mobile app.
Your Rush Block continues with today's other big stories, starting with an Arkansas police officer with ties to Houston shot and killed in the line of duty.
Police say Officer Stephen Carr was ambushed while sitting inside his patrol car Saturday night. He was waiting for his partner at the Fayetteville police station when the gunman shot him in the head. That suspect was then shot and killed by two officers. Carr is the son of a retired HPD sergeant. The FBI is investigating Friday's shooting rampage at a naval air station in Florida as an act of terrorism. They also want to know if the shooter, a Saudi Air Force officer here as a part of a military exchange program, carried out the attack alone or was part of a larger plot. He killed 3 American airmen in the attack. The Saudi officer was killed by a responding sheriff's deputy.
You know, that dream job that you worked so hard to get, you may not stay at that job. You may get fired, you may have to quit, whatever. But if you have those other talents that you went and got certified on, that you have experience in. Sometimes, let me tell y'all something. I just watched a YouTube special last night. I couldn't go to sleep for some reason. And there's this girl, I can't think of her name, but I'll find it and shout her out later. But she is so dry. She's so corny and she's so super smart. And she's a black girl. And she has a YouTube channel and she was talking about how, you know, she didn't have a degree. That's number one. But she makes a lot of money. And she got into a little bit of trouble because she told a colleague how much she made, and that colleague had a bachelor's degree in that industry. So, and that's a mental check right there. Don't ever discuss your salary at work. But what she learned from that was what I just told you, and also that you don't need a degree to be the best you that you can be, because she had previous experience in that field, and those people saw that she could do exactly what she said she could do. They bumped her pay up above everybody.
And that's what they look for, you know, experience. And so, like, a lot of complaints are, oh, well, I have a degree for it, and then they want you to have 2 to 5 years experience. You're like, I just got out of college, though, so.
But then that's where the life skills, so things like that and topics like that, it's kind of where we come in and the life skills, right? Because kids, a lot of times, they don't know that. They assume go to college, and then not only, you know, you're going to walk away with the job. That's not the case. That doesn't, just because you have that degree doesn't mean you're necessarily going to walk away or come out, graduate with a job. That's
Exactly,
great.
that's right.
But if you don't know how to market yourself, if you don't know how to, do the things to make you, presentable and things like that, and be professional.
Yes.
Because a lot of times, a lot of the teens, I think now, they don't understand that there's a such thing as your work and your home, right? Work and personal. Work and personal. The way you are at work, and I don't know like how we are here, but I've seen some people that listen to certain type of music and they go to work and you'd be like, oh, she's acting like a different person. No, it's just,
that would be me.
I mean, you gotta be versatile.
Yeah, exactly. But it's about being professional.
Yes.
And a lot of times I think the teens want to think, look at that as, oh, you're trying to be something you're not, or
True.
And that's not what it is. It's about being smart.
That's
it's
right.
about being professional.
Yes.
It's about do what you want in your private life.
Your own
Not
time.
necessarily
But
what
don't
you want.
bring it to your job.
But don't bring it to your job.
That's
and
right.
also for the people whose job where it's a lot very public. And you have to watch what you do, and I think that's a lot of the
That's
things.
something a lot of people still
They
don't understand.
They don't understand that.
Yeah.
But even as adults, we struggle with that because I would say,
Exactly.
like for me, just switching roles or coming into different arenas that I felt like I wasn't necessarily prepared for or trained in, and that they call it imposter syndrome. But you're like, okay, well. But just knowing how to separate and really knowing who you are at the core, but then also being authentic enough to say, hey, there's a division there. I'm professional here, but yeah, I like listening to so-and-so music when I'm at home. And so that balance with that. And I think with our youth, we talk a lot about social media and how that's the first thing that people look at now. Employers, they're not looking at your resume. They're looking when they see your name on there.
Social media.
Yeah,
They want to know the
that.
real you.
And so sometimes, kids have a struggle with that because they'll say, well,
They wanna
that's
put it all out
my
there.
page. Miss, that's what I like. But still.
Think about it. I got a testimony to that one because I've been working at Splashtown off 45 for about 3-4 seasons now. And I remember my first year there, this guy named Corey, he got hired, right? And on his Instagram, he posted, he was like, got a job at Splashtown, let everybody drown. And he got fired. But it also shows you that your social media is part of you.
Oh yeah,
right.
It is you. For
It
the most
is you,
part.
yeah, because you can't have like just a regular social media. You can't just be like, oh yeah, I'm about to just post all peaceful stuff on here, and then think that just because you post peaceful stuff doesn't mean you're not out here doing stuff you're not supposed to be doing.
Right.
Because that's who you are. That's your social media is a direct reflection of you as a person.
And your interest in likes too.
Exactly.
And so people might say, oh, well, that's not me. But something connected you or made you feel compelled to post that. And I also teach social media etiquette as well because sometimes people say, oh, well, my page is private. They shouldn't be looking. I said, people can screenshot, regram. There's so many different ways. And even with kids who are being cyberbullied or, we had a case, we do a lot of human trafficking. Some kids come in with that, but then we also do some dating, so it's also important, and you probably might touch base on that too, teaching healthy dating, because you will have videos being shared, and sometimes they don't think about the legal ramifications of it. Because you could be listed as a pedophile, you can go to jail, lose your college scholarships just because you opened something or you shared something that wasn't yours, and people tend to think like with Snapchat that it magically disappears if you video your boo something.
The thing is always going to be a footprint.
Exactly. Yeah. And now they have that where you can screenshot Snapchat messages, so it's just getting them up to speed with what's going on, and then also teaching their parents as well. Like, this is what's happening. I know you're not on Snapchat, but
I really like that you involve the parents, because that's one thing, that's one element that a lot of the kids, especially y'all's age and teenage years, that's what y'all are lacking, because that's the moment of separation in a way.
Right.
You guys are learning to grow in your own way. Your parents are used to the younger version of you. They're not really accepting all of the changes. They're not accepting your new take on different types of music, your new style of look, the group of friends that you're choosing to hang around. So all this is, you got to understand it from a parent's point of view as well. It's a shock for them, and it's an annoyance for you. But you got to let that love bring you guys together, and you guys have to keep that open communication with your parents, because Good, bad, or indifferent, they're still your protectors. They're still your people that are going to guide you through until they have to set you free.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Most definitely. And I feel like parents should be more involved in their children's life when it comes to things like that. You know, because like, look, it get down and dirty. Look, especially in high school.
I'm sure.
Look, it get dirty in high school. But you know, that's what your parents are there for. Because if you don't have someone there to stop you from doing that stuff, then who will?
That's
You're gonna be 25, 26, still doing stuff you're doing when you were 17, 16. Everybody gonna be looking at you like, okay, why are you still doing these things? Because you haven't had that parent intervention to mature as a person.
Come on, President.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm the next president.
Let's start campaigning.
I mean, like, you understand.
Yeah, and that's good though.
Yes, I'm very mature for my age. It's just like the thing that people my age do, I see them like, dang, that's like childish to me. Like I can't, like the same thing people do, I can't do anymore.
Are you the only kid?
No, I'm the oldest in our household.
Okay. Wow.
And so it just like.
Good job, Mom.
She did a good job. Yeah, she did a good job.
Definitely.
She took my high five. Never mind. But going back to what you were saying about the whole like what you want to do in life, stuff like that, and how you were saying like this is a time where we don't have bills and stuff like that. I think for me, especially because I'm trying to start my own t-shirt business, for us as teenagers, that's the hardest thing for us, and y'all don't see that as parents. And let me tell you why though. As parents, we see it because we're all big on being successful at the next stage. We don't want to go to college and go do something and major in something that we don't want to waste all your time, money. And you know,
our money, huh?
Not my money, my parents' money.
We don't want you to.
Exactly. But something that I think really hit me hard was when you were saying like, go for it, you know, and what she said about the whole TD Jakes thing. Just even though if you put your all into it, even though it don't work, it's gonna lead to something different. And you know, she's been there helping me with something that I'm trying to do. And it was starting my t-shirt business, and something that I've been trying to do for a long time because my mom kind of just been there pushing me. And, you know, I was like kind of dreading on the last few days, like, okay, what if this don't work out? What if this don't work out? But that's who teenagers are. That's who we are. We always want to know whatever we're getting into is going to work. You know, and that's something that it's something that our downfall as teenagers is if we don't think it's going to work, we're going to back out quick.
He's helping me understand my teenager. Wow, that's so true.
That is true. I agree with that.
Because
you deal with
go
ahead.
Oh, well, something that enlightened. Well, I just got enlightened to probably about like a month ago. Is that if one thing doesn't work out, it's okay because you don't have to choose just one thing. Because for the longest, I was like, oh my God, yes, I'm going to be an attorney. But then I was like, all the extra school, and I'm like, I don't think I want to do that. You know what I mean? And so for a while, I was kind of at like a blank space. Cause I'm like, oh my God, like what am I going to do with my life? But I have a lot of talents, and so what I'm realizing is that things like cosmetology, and even with me, I enjoy dancing, and I was on a team, and I made up a majority of our routines. Like that's another occupation. I can be a choreographer.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, not only explore your options, but explore your talents as well.
Right.
Because if one thing doesn't work, okay. So for instance, I'm gonna go ahead and go into dentistry, but I'm like, I can do side things like you said, cosmetology, just, just to make that.
That's right.
Yeah. 7 streams of income.
Right.
Yeah. Multiple streams of income.
Multiple streams. And shout out to, her name is, I don't want to forget this young lady's name that made me understand the true, like, the importance of getting that experience that we're talking about. Her name is Kelly Stamps, and you can follow her on YouTube. Okay. Kelly Stamps, Stamps. She is hilarious, but she's real. I don't know, parental advisory is advice. Anyway, but I mean, she's not too out there, but I'm just saying you guys are teenagers. But at least she's like that very next step where you guys are heading. Yeah. She's 23. You see what I'm saying? And she just came out of the high school era, worked a few jobs, and now she's in mainstream. So then you can get a concept of what she's going through. Very mature girl. At 23, I can tell you right now, my psyche was not where hers is right now. Okay, like check her out. But experience, don't let anybody tell you guys you can't do anything just because you don't have a piece of paper in your hand. It's nice to have, Make sure that when you go to school, you think about those student loans. If you can pay for the classes, pay for them. Don't just because during my time, student? I'm going to sign off on that.
Check.
I'm going to sign off on that next check. And then guess what? Look at us now.
Yeah.
We still paying.
I will say, my mom helped me out a lot. You know, y'all go for those scholarships. Because what I'm finding now is that if it's something that requires, maybe y'all not like that, but if it's something that requires an essay, and those are like the easiest ones to get. If there's one that, y'all need to go for these scholarships. Like, this is free money. And I'm constantly harping on that with even the clients that come to my office, like, you know, where are we on the timeline? That's considered self-care to me, because you're going to run yourself. Teens have a lot of anxiety. So anxiety gets you here. Then we got panic attacks. Then like testing anxiety. And then, oh Lord, I'm realizing that I'm about to graduate in 3 months, anxiety. And then anxiety like, you know, like slumps down to depression. So I always say anxiety and depression are like brother and sister. And so if you could tackle one, then you can work with the other. And so what I noticed, because you all are in this age of perfection, like, I got to get this right, this is creating a false sense of anxiety. And so, you know, just working with kids and parents too, because when y'all get anxious, the parents get anxious. And then it's like what we're experiencing now, this whole house of panic. And then you have to bring that down. So definitely being proactive with that. And so experience and exposure. A lot of times people will be more inclined to help you all or support you all as young people because we know the struggle, or because it's like, this person has a good product, I definitely want to see them be successful. So if people don't know what you do, then they don't know to help you. So that's another big thing, getting out of this space of being perfect, or I'm gonna wait until it's perfect. That's even if you just start, just say, hey, you know, I'm working on a t-shirt line, this is new, do you want to be like a model for me, or do you want to like test it out and see if it's something that you could like, or say, hey, you know, I'm doing like a promo here. If there's some events at your school, try to get with them, or small clubs, because that's how my daughter started doing t-shirts. It was actually for Spirit Day, and she wore like a tie-dye shirt, and it says "Y'all crave faith," because that's her name is Sincere Faith, but they saw it, and so that could be your exposure. You don't necessarily have to come up to people and say, oh, you know, I'm doing shirts. Just wear your brand. Wear your own shirt. And they was like, oh, can you make us a couple for the volleyball team? She's like, okay, yeah. And even if you don't know what to charge, you have a great resource there, like Ask Your Mom.
We have pricing meetings. Like,
there you go. And there you go. And I love y'all's relationship, because the communication is so important with being able to ask those questions. And I love what you're doing. Because I can say it as a school counselor, there were times where we would share information with people, and we miss certain things, or sometimes people don't know what to ask. Like I said, so we don't know what parents don't know. Right. You know, we have meetings, we have, you know, conferences, and we're asking the kids, and sometimes they come in like, I don't know, miss. Like, I don't know what's going on. So, you know, just bridging that connection is really, really important. So I appreciate that. And that thing with social media, I always say, even if for whatever reason you're that parent who, because I work with a lot of single moms, and they're like, I don't have time for that. I got like 5 kids, you know, he'll figure it out. But that's when they need us the most. Yeah. When that he'll figure it out, like, no, I need you to help him. We're going to help him figure it out. But at the same time, I always recommend that if you have like an older cousin, like an aunt, even if you're not going to be friends with your child on social media, have someone that's reliable, that's a part of your village, to do like a checks and balances. They don't have to be like all in the Kool-Aid, but just kind of check and say, hey, you know, either if they want to talk to them directly and say, you want to maybe think about what you're posting, or if they contact you and say, hey, you know, we noticed something that was a little, because I've had that happen before. Yeah. And sometimes kids don't realize it. Like, I'm just taking pictures in the restroom. Number one, that's during school time. Number two, like, I got questions now. Yeah. So, that communication is important.
It is. I mean,
and I want to just say, too, about, like, the selfies and all this stuff. So the workshop that I'm postponing, we will still have it sooner or later, even if and I may just make it virtual, because I think that may be a way to just reach more kids, right? But the theme of it is called Let's Take a Selfie. And it's about self-image, self-love, self-respect. It's all of those things. It's about just being able to express to kids, to teens, and young adults. So it's high school and young adults, so already in college. Like, hey, and I know I did one at, I think it was Worthing High School. I did Let's Take a Selfie. So I had one called Let's Take a Selfie there, and that's where it stemmed from. And so I just kind of expanded on that. But it was so funny because what I did is I didn't have the right props that day because I didn't really know where I wanted to go with it. I'm very impromptu, right? So in the class, I started looking at the kids that were there. And so I went and I rolled up some paper. And I kind of made this like makeshift joint. And I said, okay, we're about to do this little skit right now. I said, we're all at a party. I got my joint in my hand. Let's take a selfie. This is where it came from. And I had this joint in my hand and I'm like leaning back. I was like, okay, everybody, come on, let's get in the selfie. And most of them walked away.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
And there was a couple that didn't click right away.
Yeah.
But that was the whole point. Like that's where that came from.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, listen, before you put yourself in this selfie, right?
Yeah.
Before you get in there, start thinking about what is this saying. So the person that's looking at you, what do they see? You know, do they see you with alcohol? Do they see you with, you know, even if you're in college, is that the message that you want to portray?
Yeah.
Is that how you want other people to see you? You know? And so even if it's, and I had to, once we did that, we started off with that skit. And then that way, that led me to see like where the teens' minds were.
Yeah.
Okay, like they
good.
didn't, some of them didn't notice it, and some of them caught it right away. It was like, shoom.
Right.
And then we had a discussion, because I think one of the kids brought it up, so what if I want to walk away, but I don't know how? Or I don't want to seem like no punk. You know how the kids are, or, you know, so what's the best way? The peer pressure. Right. And so we talked about, hey, I would just get in there and I'm like, okay, guess what? I want you to hold this, and let's recreate this. And I would give them scenarios on how to walk away. And I said, let's be honest. Just, I hate to say it, lie. I gotta go to the bathroom, y'all. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
And that was the first.
That was so good. I thought she was serious.
I was like, okay. But that was it. And I was just like, y'all, it's okay to if you don't want to, if you're in a social setting where you just like, you don't want anyone to tease you, or, you know, if you're just not comfortable at this point right now to where you can say, no, I don't want to be, or you feel like you have to give an explanation.
Let's be realistic.
Be realistic.
Yeah.
Okay. Say, hey, I gotta go. How about, you know what? Let me take the picture, or let me let me go over here and let me get this, or I gotta go to the bathroom. Anybody want some water? Like,
I forgot something in my car.
Oh, I'm good for that one. You know, someone's calling on the line.
I was saying low key. I know how many people you shaded any back in the day.
But you know, it's so important because sometimes the teens may not know how. And maybe they want to walk away, and maybe they don't notice it, or maybe they do. And so the whole theme, you know, let's take a selfie is all about just, again, how do you see yourself? That's really important, that self-respect. How do you see other people? It's about yourself, your brand, right? It's really about your brand.
Yeah, you're building a brand.
You're building a brand. And is that what you want to show to other people? Do you want them to see you as this, you know, every time we see her out, like, oh, I'm trying to be a lawyer, right? You said lawyer, right? I'm trying to be a lawyer, but every time I see you, you're in the pictures with someone with alcohol and someone with this. Like, that doesn't go together.
That's another thing with taking the selfie. You also want to be cognizant of the background. So a lot of people say, well, it wasn't me. I mean, I wasn't doing it. But, you know, most of the time people zoom in like, whoa, what's that back there? What's happening? Like,
people are private investigators.
And that's true. And so we talk to the kids a lot about being an accomplice. And so just because you didn't commit the robbery, you were driving a car sitting in the back seat, you're going to get the same time as someone else.
25 to life, sis.
And so, you know, just being careful of, like you say, your circle. If you're caught in those spaces, removing yourself from it. And I even tell, you know, my daughter, like, hey, you can blame it on me. Just be like, my mama say I got to be home. And, you know, whatever.
Blame it on me all day long.
And my husband tells me to do that.
Yeah, exactly. and then, like, we have, like, a code text if it's something where, you know, she feels uncomfortable. She'll send, like, an X or something. Not even, like, a long text, but she'll send, like, an X. And then usually, because she's just started driving, y'all, she's 16. So when she goes, and so she's a junior too. And so like most of her friends are like seniors. And so it's kind of like that age gap, like, no, you can't hang with them because you're 16. Your curfew, you in a different space. So yeah, just kind of text me the address before you leave, or, you know, let me know where you at. Drop a pin in it, let me know something. And then when it gets a certain time, she'll send, like, we got a little codes. So establishing codes with kids is important to say, hey, you know, I'm uncomfortable, or I'm lost, or something to where you're communicating. I always keep my cell phone on, you know, when she's out. But then also just, I know when teenagers, sometimes they don't think, and not like in a bad way, but it's just like, hey, I'm out and I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna go here. Right. And so you're like, I'm dropping this person off. And so just we go back and we establish those rules, like, hey, you know, if you have to come home and I drop them off with you, or they spend the night, then let's do that. But it's dangerous out here. Like, even being stopped by the police, you know, and that's a whole nother thing, you know, with us, you know, like, okay, if you stop by the police at a certain time, number one, you're violating curfew. Number two, you don't know the type of officer that you're going to run into, and you're a young lady or a male, African-American at that, being stopped by yourself. So, you know, you got to, and then human trafficking is going on. And I always tell her, it's not to make you afraid to live life, but it's the same thing with what's going on here with the corona. It's making you aware so that you're prepared, not panicking, because I mean it's happening. Right. So we want to live in reality, but we also want to prepare ourselves and not just go, woo, hey, I got my driver's license, let's turn up, you know,
and he can tell you. I mean, we've had conversations where it was like, I think in the beginning of the conversation, especially, you know, driving, where I was just, okay, where are you going? Who are you going with? Blah, blah, blah. And I think in the beginning, he may not have understood it, right? He didn't understand why it was so important. And, you know, it's always usually the kids are like, you're overreacting. Yeah. None of my other friends, their parents don't require them to do that.
And guess what? They don't know what their friends are doing. Mama. You think you know what your friends are going through with their parents, but you really don't know.
Yeah. And even if it's the case where their parents don't care. I mean, I said, you know, like where they can just let them do whatever. Like there's just some rules, and I've told him before, even if you're somewhere where you're not supposed to be,
let me know.
Let me know.
Yeah. Let me tell y'all, since we have these two teenagers in here, a story from my life that's real, that really happened, and it affected me and so many of my other classmates, and you guys already know what I'm about to talk about. I had a good friend of mine that I've known since I was in kindergarten. That's 5 years of age. And we went through schools together, elementary, middle school, high school. High school, I started driving at age 16, same as your daughter. And, you know, we were all having a good time. We were going to graduate senior year. Senior year came along. It was Martin Luther King birthday weekend, so we got that Monday off. That good friend of mine was killed. Let me tell you how I think some of that kind of poured into that one day when that happened. Is because that her parents were always working. Her father was never in her life, but her mom always worked. And I mean, every single day, maybe had Sunday off, and she was allowed to go wherever she pleased, however she pleased. And that's just not, even then. So, you know, we're much older than you guys, but even back then, it just wasn't good for any child, you know what I mean? But yet, our parents still had to do what they had to do. You see what I'm saying? And so, that's a good point that your mom makes, is that it's so important that the parents of you guys, that we take care of you guys and make sure that you're always in a safe place. We always have some idea, at least, of where you're going and where you plan to go. So that way, if something happens, we know a starting point to start looking. You know, unfortunately.
And I can definitely say that at the beginning, like you said, I didn't really understand it. But as I got older and like this age, she can tell you, I don't leave the house to go to no type of party unless I know who's going there, unless who's going. I know who's going, who's throwing the party, and things of that nature. So it's because of the fact because I've gotten so groomed to the point to where if I know y'all about to be cutting up, shooting guns in the backyard, all that stuff, I'm not going.
Exactly.
I will not be in attendance. Exactly. And that's just the person that she has groomed me to be. And it's the fact that like and going back to what you said about removing stuff from situations, my circle of friends just removed someone out of our circle. Yeah. I literally just 2 days ago we had to remove someone out of our circle because not only was he being negative, but he was talking mess on social media, and he's being all this stuff. And me and my circle, and Heaven can tell you, that's something we are very mature. Out of everyone in our school, we are very mature. We do not play that stuff. And the moment you start being negative towards us, we are like, okay, well, you have it. Ain't gonna be no issues after it. Ain't gonna be no social media drama after it. You got it. Good. And he got upset. And even though we didn't remove, in a certain way we didn't really remove ourselves, we removed him, but technically we really did remove ourselves from the situation. Yeah. Right. Because we ain't have no problem. We've been knowing each other since freshman year. All of us been close to each other since freshman year. We thought he was good enough, mature enough to get in our group. And we gave him trial and errors. And the moment when he started, I like it. Yeah, look, he started.
I expect nothing less.
Look, when he cut up the first time, we like, okay, bro. We told him it's not cool, but you got it. Second time, all right. Well, second time, we told you this the first time, you need to relax. Third time, we had enough. We were like, all right, bro, you can't come to us to the gym. You can't go to us when we go out to eat. Can't do all this stuff like that. And it's not because we don't want him hanging out, but we saw how it brought the negativity out of everyone else. Right. And we were not about to have that because that brings.
Good that you guys
bring my stock value down over here.
But it's good to see something here. It's good that as a group, you guys were able to analyze that, think about it, and say, what do we need to do to make this change for the better? Y'all doing a lot more
exactly. That's a plus. And just starting talking to kids about boundaries. I talked to them about the 5 types of boundaries that you have to have. And so you're right with establishing self-worth and self-value. So when I say stock, it's what stock do you take in yourself? Not necessarily like, financial-wise, but I mean, if you got that too, you don't want someone just kind of leeching off of you or just being like dead weight. And so I always ask my daughter and even kids that I work with, what stock or value do you have in yourself? Like you can't hang with people who are not aligned to your vision, like even with a visual, because it's gonna throw you off, And so, does this person have the same values that you have? And it's not that, like you're saying, it's no problem. Like there's no animosity. It's just that I'm here and you're there, and that's okay. We could speak in passing, but
I love the maturity.
You can't fit
hands down. For you guys to be in high school, it's like almost unreal.
That's gonna carry you a long way.
So I mean, keep that up. Oh no, go ahead.
But not only is it a self-awareness, I feel like a lot of that's being self-aware stems down into you not having that integrity to have the boldness to be able to say just no, so that you don't even. I don't even care about an excuse. I feel like I don't owe you anything. So when I say I don't want to be in the picture, I don't want to be in the picture. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
not everybody has that. Like that's a maturity.
And you have to build yourself up to that.
And strength. That's it. You're very. That's a.
And I can tell you, as a person, she is very strong. She's been through a lot of stuff, especially from moving from Dallas. Moving in the area that we are. It was kind of difficult for her to kind of like transition. But
did you guys know each other? Sorry.
No.
We met this year.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but
no, you're good.
But one thing I would say about my transition is definitely something that stood out to me was like a level of respect. You know what I mean? Like I'm coming from a school where you can't necessarily cuss out the teacher, or they can't necessarily hear you cuss. You know what I mean? But then coming to this school, it's almost like a culture shock to me. And so I have to stand in my integrity and realize that outside of these walls, there is a way you have to conduct yourself as a citizen, and that there are consequences for the things that you say and for the things that you do, and for even the things that you do, you have to realize. Okay, there was a fight that went on, and that for the first time I was involved in. And even when the fight all went down, I'm just like, girl, what are you doing? You're in basketball. Girl, what are you doing? You're in cheer. Do you not know that you'll be like kicked off the team? It's not my job to, evaluate your consequences, but I'm just like, it just doesn't ever get that serious, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, there's just a different level of respect. That's my biggest, problem with transitioning.
And then for me, I saw it because when we first met, very cool person, very young, talented, amazing young girl, and meeting her, I saw that side of her, and that's something I had to watch out for. Not because that was me, like, oh, that's just negative. It wasn't negative. It's very positive. But where we are you got to think about where you are. We go to, we live in Spring, go to Spring High School. That area is changing every day. It's changing, transitioning to an area that you can't even be comfortable in that like that anymore. But since I've been in that area for so long, I know how to be mature, but also know how to watch my back as well, not take anything for granted, and know how to be respected among my peers. And that's something that she has grown. Now, I can definitely say she definitely transitioned way faster than I did, way faster. But it's something that it took her time. And after what she went through, even after she went through, she grew as a person, and her integrity strengthened, and she's become stronger as a young black woman. And so that's something that I can definitely say that she went through.
Y'all gonna make me cry. Yeah, keep going.
But it's definitely the truth though, and that's something I tell her and something I tell her parents as well, that everything that she's been through this year, and it's not the fight wasn't the first thing. It kind of stimulated a few months, like a month or two prior, but this is something that I've seen her change, and I've seen her become a stronger person. And so being in a situation to where you're faced with adversity, sometimes you're going to have someone that needs to watch your back. Someone, because if you're not used to it, people are going to try to come at you.
Oh, yeah.
There's little snakes that try to come up the grass and try to bite you, and there should have to be someone there to kind of watch you, like, hey, I know you're nice, and know stuff like that, but I promise you look at it different way.
Right, because I'm so friendly. I never knew, I knew I would hear about, like, people taking someone's kindness for granted. Now me, I'm super nice. I'm cool. We don't ever have to be in a situation where we gotta fight. We don't really necessarily have to be in a situation where we even have to argue. You know what I mean? But my kids definitely help keep me grounded in realizing what is going on and how for you to make sure that you're not letting your environment change how you are. You know what I mean? Because there's not too many people that could have remained the same.
And that was something I was super big on her about. I said, I know this is bothering you, I know this is stressing you out, but do not change who you are. Because people on the outside are trying to change who you are. They see the godliness in you, and they see the happiness in you, and they see all.
How old are you?
Look, future president. Come on, we're gonna change the world together.
He's president.
I need you to go take my son out to lunch.
Look, I got you.
Come on, now he said they can see the godliness in you. He is speaking the truth. They would, sometimes our godliness can agitate other people.
It can,
what they got going on, and now you nailed it. There's some people that you'll try to communicate with that won't even communicate back. You didn't do anything.
And it has nothing to do with you.
Nothing at all.
And didn't I not tell you that? I said you being nice is gonna bring more danger to you than you being mean.
And I thought he was tripping. I was like, man, everybody loves a happy person. Everybody loves.
Not everybody.
Not everybody. I know that now.
Look, especially at y'all age, especially as you get older, it's easier, I think.
No, Nikki, don't you lead this girl astray.
It's situational.
I think in some ways.
We'll talk out the air. No.
But it also stems from jealousy, though.
Yes.
I can definitely say that it stems from jealousy.
That's what I say. A lot of people aren't happy with themselves. Teenagers, adult-wise, and so having a covering, and that is so amazing to me. And just like with my daughter, most of her friends are guys, and people say, well, how do you feel about that? But for me personally, I didn't have a lot of female friends. I grew up with brothers, and so all I knew was just like a house of guys. Their mindset is different, and they're very protective, and not in a controlling way, but the way that you are. They're very protective. They see things that we don't see, and so it's just a blessing when you have good young men who are covering for our young girls, and that don't allow them to be hurt. So that's a blessing.
Definitely.
And that was just something that, but like I said, she's changed. She's definitely changed. And something that y'all heard, I don't know about her, she's a natural born leader. She started, so our school would have a step team, step team that just started a few years ago, majority all black step team. And she came in as just a regular member on the team and got to the point to where she was a captain. And just a matter of a semester, she got from where she was to a captain. But even in that, the positivity still brought out enemies. And the leadership still brought out enemies. When you're a good leader and you're someone who wants to see change and you see things that's not right. You see things how it could be better. You want to move on completely different than how it was before. If you see it, the way it was working before, it's not necessarily working. But that's what our school is. Our basketball team the same way. Football team the same way. If there's a leader on the team, they're gonna be called out for it. Exactly. But you notice they've never made it to like state or made it to somewhere down the line. Like our basketball team has a few years ago. They almost made it to state, but that's because they had leaders on their team. Absolutely. And that was the first time that it was this culture shock to spring that what are these kids doing that making it to regionals, making it to this point, and so forth, is because you have leaders. And as a leader, a natural born leader, she had enemies. People trying to come at her because of the fact that how she was talking to them. It's not the tone of her voice. She never had a bad tone. It was just the fact that she's trying to better for you. She's trying to make you better, better the
team.
Better the team, most exactly.
One thing I will say is going into it, I don't ever go into anything of trying to do the takeover. If I see where I can fix something or there can be like an upgrade in it, I'm all for helping. You know what I mean? And even in the captain of being position, I was asked to be a captain personally just because I knew where this team could be, but not on top of that, somebody had a vision for the team. And I was like, you know what? I think I can do something with that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, you know, I've definitely had to grow and learn how to deal with people accordingly because that's just one thing that,
and here's why I said what I said earlier, that it won't necessarily get better because when you leave high school, you're going to enter, I'm assuming, college, right? So those group of individuals that you're going to college with haven't quite matured just yet either, right? And I'll say from age 17 or 18, whatever age you graduate, up until maybe 23, 24 even. And of course, people of all ages go to college. But I'm just talking about your specific age group in general. You're going to go through that again because of your essence, because of who you are at the core of you. And because you are a leader, a lot of other people are not going to. It's everything that your friend just said. So just be ready for it and continue to grow. So that way, when you are faced with that adversity, you're able to combat it in a calm, mature way. And it's not going to affect you as deep as it is right now because this is your first action, your first interference with that. You know what I mean? But it doesn't necessarily always get easier. And then when you get out of college, now you got to deal with the real world. And those individuals, exactly, they're all wacky. All of us, because we're all at different levels of maturity. We're all at different levels of experience in life. We're all at different levels of any and every type of emotion you can think of. So then when they interact with somebody like you, who you already know who you are at this point in time, once you've made it to that point, it's going to be a challenge for them. And in a mirror of that, it's going to be a challenge for you again, because you've dealt with this all your life. You're looking at it like, oh my God, I dealt with this in high school. I dealt with this in college. Now I got to deal with this in my career. I'm speaking from experience, by the way. So what I'm saying is, don't be shocked when you see it again. Something that I read the other day is, especially for black women, or I'm sorry, women in general, I apologize. But this article was made by an African-American woman, but it affects all women. It said that the older that you get, right, you're going to have these issues and challenges in life. And at the end, if you keep up with your journal, create a journal and write in it however often you need to. But when you read back, say, 20 to 30 years from today's date, you're going to see that you were faced with the same problems. It's all about how did you respond and react to those problems. They're going to come up again and again. So, you know what I mean?
I agree with that, but just kind of like more of an intuitive thing, because when you deal with those things on a multiple level, like a pattern, it gets easier because you know how to handle the situations, not the external but the internal. So things don't affect you as much because you develop a resilience after recognizing, like you said, the journal or the patterns that you've been through. You already know, okay, well, these are the type of people that I'm going to typically deal with. This is how I'm going to handle the situation. And so you end up sometimes changing your position as a leader. So when we do coaching, we say, okay, sometimes you have to lead from the back. So going in and noticing who your people are, because you've gotten experience with dealing with multiple types of people, it gets easier because you can already say, okay, I know this person right here, they gonna do. This person right here. And then so you learn how to position yourself and position other people to where it reduces the blow, if that makes sense. So it gets easier in that sense. Dealing with people doesn't get easier, but you get easier. Like you strengthen that muscle, and that's like emotional intelligence or adaptability intelligence that we kind of teach our kids about, being able to adapt in that way. You know, we teach IQ and we teach all these academic things, but when you're working with people, just in business, just in life, just, you know, I work around a variety of all. You never know what you're getting. The intake might say one thing, and then, Lord, the floodgates open when they get in there. Right. So you kind of already, you're like, okay, I know what this is. I've kind of seen this before. And then you're able to adjust yourself, so it gets easier in that way.
Right. That's why that branding, that self-branding, that self-image, and everything else is so important. Like, you have to know yourself. And in order for you to be strong and, you know, be able to handle all of these different things out of the world, and go through it again in college, and start over when you get into the real world, and honestly start over when you start a new job.
Absolutely, each and every time.
Every time you start a job, new relationship, it's like it's a repeat type of thing.
Whole nother time, whole nother podcast.
Whole nother topic,
right?
yeah.
You start over a new job, and then people are gonna be like, oh, she thinks she this, oh, she thinks she know it. But you know, when you have that confidence and that security in yourself, you're able to recognize it a lot faster. So whereas this time it may have taken you a little bit because you're like, oh no, everybody likes happy people. Don't change that, right? But just know that not everybody does, and that doesn't mean you change who you are. That just means like, hey, you just be true to you, be authentic, right? But just know, like, not everybody's your friend. I've been saying that for the longest. Not everybody's your friend,
right?
You know, and I don't know how many of y'all in this room have friends that you to this day from like high school, but you know, most of the people that I became friends with are not from high school. You know, they're from afterwards. They're from like the real world, or maybe from college. And I think that's really where you kind of find that.
I think mine is the flip though, because I'm still best friends with my best friends since middle school.
Wow.
And so
you're lucky.
Like the whole group though, like do you have all your
It was 3 of us. We're like still together. It's
well, that's
crazy.
different.
Like
That's
we
good.
got matching tattoos and everything. But anyway, that's a long story. But that's still a journey in itself, because you have new friends that come in, college friends. One of my friends went to PV. One of my friends didn't go to college. She did more like a trade. And so you kind of have dynamics of friends, but I always talk about like your base core. And so it's also important to really know yourself, because if they don't vibe, they're not your tribe. So I always talk about your Fab Five, right?
Yeah.
So he's a part of your Fab Five. So you have like your pyramid. So your base pyramid, even the Bible talks about the faithful few. That's all you need. Like, you don't need a big support system. You need the people who are going to invest in you. You're going to invest, and it's a allegiance. And I talk about alignment a lot.
Absolutely. And and I just want to add this one thing, is that your circle is a resemblance of you.
That's true.
Yes.
And so, right, get your Fab Five. If you can't find 5, 4, 3, you know, at least one, you know. But I can say the reason that we were able to, I guess, weather the storms of life was because, first of all, we shared the same values, and we came into the friendship, you know, understanding communication is so important, but we came, even throughout times where we had to have interventions, like, hey, I feel like, you know, we call them MRS interventions, but I feel, hey, we haven't met each other, and then things changed. I was the first person to have a child, so I had my daughter at 21. They wasn't having kids, so they was like, woo, turn up college life, and I'm like, nah, so I can go with y'all right now. But that didn't change the value of our relationship. The circumstances changed, but it didn't change the value of our relationship. So when you have people who are for you at the core, then those people don't leave you. Circumstances might change, but you have your solid piece there that says, okay, I value, or how can I help you? Even to the point where I remember one of my best friends, she had Mondays off. She would watch my daughter on Mondays. And so just communication is important. Calling people out, like you were honest with her, and being honest and saying, hey, and with any role in life or leadership, expect criticism. So sometimes people aren't the type of people that like to have criticism or like to say, they feel offended every time somebody says something to them. You're not going to build a good friendship. Right. You're not going to be great professional.
Good luck in life.
Like everything is going to just woo.
Yeah, but one thing as a leader, when you're having to make things like critiques, you have to do your job on the outbands of, like, let's say practice or whatever, making sure that you're building those relationships with those people. Right. So that when it's time when you get into practice, I want everybody to know nothing should ever be taken personal, because you know what kind of relationship we have, and that it's never coming from, oh, I'm just trying to call you out during practice. Because overall, I'm making everybody else look good. And if you're something, sore thumb, I would want somebody.
Nothing personal, just
business. You have to learn in life. I mean, it's not personal, it's business.
That's right. And there's a lot of adults that still don't know
they
that.
They don't get it.
Yeah.
I've worked with that.
But that's why boundaries are important, and so it's easier for you to establish boundaries when you understand yourself. And sometimes even with the kids, when they'll say, well, what should I say? Usually the values boundary is the easiest to kind of get people away from you, because you can say, oh, this is against my beliefs. And people tend to kind of be like, okay. You know, I mean, you might have some people that press the issue, but, you know, because that's more like a tangible thing where you can say, you know, this is not something that I believe in, or this is against my values or my beliefs, you know. And so people are sometimes, they'll back off a little bit more, and that's easier to.
And then there's some that won't. I'm just being realistic.
Yeah, there's some that
won't. There's so
won't.
many different types of people out there.
Yeah.
But let me dig deep into like what you do, what inspired you to be a therapist. You have a lot of credits. You're an author. You know, I don't think people know what all you've done.
Some trinkets.
Thank you.
And I did sanitize them.
Thank you.
So
tell everybody who you are again. Tell us everything, if you can put it all in there.
Okay, wow, that's going to take a lot of time. Okay, so
we still got time.
Okay, so I am a licensed professional counselor, self-care coach, author, a mom, a daughter, a friend, everything in between, and most importantly, I'm human. And so what I really want people to remember of all ages is that it's okay to be human. And I think that we live in a society where we are supposed to wear masks, hence why I wrote this book. And everybody has to be perfect. So like y'all were saying, okay, I got to get this right, And it's all a myth. There's no such thing as perfection. What you do, then you celebrate the wins and the begin-agains. And so that's one of the big things that I really push with my clients or anybody that I work with. You know, every small step creates a major movement. You know, and then that you can always change. So I teach a lot of resilience. I teach the organic self-care, because a lot of people say they have mental illnesses, anxiety, depression. Okay, some people really might have PTSD, but our biggest ones are anxiety and depression. The problem that I have recognized just from my years of being a therapist is that a lot of it is because we're not caring for ourselves. And so that's internal work. That's that dirty work. And so when people say, oh, okay, well, I practice self-care. I go get my hair and my nails done. And, you know, I'm cute. But what about the inside? Like, what about the heart work? And so the name of my practice is Heart Work Trending Counseling and Consulting Services. And I actually got that from Colossians 3:23, where it talks about doing the work of God, not that men may see, but that you'll be rewarded in heaven. And so that's my ultimate goal, you know, with helping people find transparency and just helping people do life. You know, I teach people how to do life for a living. That's what I say. And I myself, I had to learn that too. A lot of people are experiencing burnout, this anxiety here, workplace burnout. Like at the beginning, I was talking about dealing with kids who experience suicide or suicide ideation, suicide attempts. It used to be the second leading cause of death. Now it's the third leading cause of death. That's still up there, but we're making some strides in that way. So I started really getting out into the African American community, sharing and trying to debuntify the myth of what therapy looks like, what a therapist looks like, and being more accepting. So I grew up pretty much in Houston my whole life, South Side. So I grew up in South Park, and then we moved to Third Ward, and then so I've pretty much been in Houston my whole life. But I've gotten the opportunity to travel a lot of different places, just teaching about suicide prevention and intervention and just suicide awareness. And when we first started really sharing information about that, a lot of doors were shut in our face, especially in the African American community, because it's like, nah, that's a white people's thing, sorry.
Don't be sorry. We talk about everything.
Okay. No, that's we don't do that here. Or just talking about cutting. At that time, there was a rise in like it's called a cutter's clique, where typically when kids start cutting, it's not in isolation, like you learn it from somebody. And what we found was that most of it was happening in groups such as like your fine arts group, your band, your art, your choir kids were the ones that were doing things like that. Yeah. And so just spreading awareness. But when we would try to share this information with parents, especially, people of color, it's like, nah, like we good on that. Like we don't need therapy. My child don't do any of that. But then issues started coming, and then they started coming back. Like, can you help me? I just got a question real quick. Hey, remember you was telling us about this and that? Yeah, okay, what y'all want to know? So I started hosting events in our community, and they were called Gems and Jewels, and it was pretty much just for kind of like a small town hall forum where people could come together, similar to what you were doing, and bringing people from all walks of life, kids, middle school kids, adults and parents, guardians. I work with a lot of kids who are being raised by their grandparents. So of course they got questions and need answers. And we were talking about everything from healthy dating, different types of abuse. What does it look like? How do you get out of an abusive relationship? Social media, like we were talking about, teaching grandparents how to use the phone. Like, what is Snapchat? Even if you walk away from here and never pick up this phone again, at least you'll know just in conversation what's happening. And so a lot of it was just the education piece. So I work on the side of preventative care, just like you would medical and dental. I think mental health is always pushed to the back, and we become the emergency room for people. And so they only come when it's like a last resort. And I also started to talk to people about changing the view of what therapy looked like, because people come and it's like, oh, well, I don't know what's wrong with him, but can you fix him? I can't do it in 50 minutes. That's just the intake. I'm just getting to know you. So just changing that view of what people thought it was and building relationships. And I think with African American people of color, my heart was there for one, because I'm a person of color, but I saw that there was a disconnect, whereas other races will bring their kids to therapy for whatever reason, like, oh, they're failing math this third week,
I was just about to say that.
And they roll in and they pay very good money for it, but at the same time, that's just not where my heart was. Like, I could say, okay, yeah, come on, in this session, we're gonna work with this, and that. But there was so much going on in our community, and that's where the hard work needed to be. And so then I started with these events, or I call them just mental health education. I started going back into the schools, teaching guidance lessons. I was also doing school counseling too. So like you were saying, a lot of information was twisted to where our people, it's like come in like, oh, well, they should know. They didn't ask about it. And so I started to peep that and be like, no, come here real quick. You can get a waiver for that. Absolutely. That AP, you can get a waiver for. And like I said, sometimes with our hands being tied, it'd be like, I meet you at Starbucks, like right around the street, and I'm about to tell you how to fill this application out. I'm going to help you fill a fast file. This is the essay that you got to write for a scholarship. So, it just kind of became like this underground thing, like, oh, go ask Ms. Davis, she'll hook you up. I'm like, like the line was around, like, Ms. Davis here, Ms. Davis here. And I started being like the only counselor who would take people, and I spoke like, this was when I was in Lamar Consolidated, and it was a lot of Hispanic people. But at that time, I was the second black counselor. I was young and black, so it's kind of like you become a threat to people sometimes. It's like, well, why everybody asking for her? But nobody, and that's just that crazy view that people had, where they would give me all the Hispanic ones. I'm like, I don't know. I know muy poquito, like más o menos Spanish. But we worked it out, but it was a task, just really getting people to get acclimated to change. So when I wrote Unmask the Journeys and Its Lessons, I started out as an English 4 teacher, so poetry is my thing.
Okay. I love poetry. Yes. I like some poetry.
So poetry is my thing, and what I noticed with journaling, every day with my kids, we would journal, and so it would just be sometimes random topics, or it would just be something like what's happening or a prompt, and that was how I was able to find out a lot of things that were going on with kids. And so we created like this anthology. I also used to teach yearbook and newspaper. Okay. So just all and so developing a relationship with people and really pulling out their talents, like you said, working through those hobbies. A lot of them went on to just do newspaper themselves, create magazines, and I thank God for the opportunity, because we were given skills that were similar to what you were doing, like non-traditional skills. And so they were able to create trades and create businesses off of their interests and just pushing that. And so I wrote this book because I was one of those people. I grew up in a family that, like I said, I grew up with brothers. So we weren't really allowed to share our feelings, especially like if you were dealing with a relationship or something like that. It's like, okay, so what you want me to do? Beat him up? Or like, so it's like, well, no, I just wanted to share, like talk to you. So it was very like cut and dry. So for me, journaling was the way that I expressed my feelings and to get it out in process. And I found that a lot of other young people were doing that too. And so a lot of times when I would see kids, especially when I was in the juvenile detention center, they're not going to open up to you like that. And they're like, well, miss, we tell you everything about us. We don't know nothing about you. Mm-hmm. So we started kind of writing these notes. I would write things in poetic form because it was encrypted. Like you could have a mask on a little bit, but then have it off. Like if you read through the poetry enough, you would get what I'm saying. And so then we just started sharing poems. And I had like a big glob of poems, and when we did group therapy, and we would just share our writings and our poems, and for some people that was easier than saying, hey, I was molested or I was abused, or sometimes they would have somebody else read their story to them. So it was more so like you taking a mask off and nobody judging you. And so I shared my story. I published a collection of poems about my life, and then I created this journal, which is more like problem solving, thinking through, and more so meditation and retraining your brain, because a lot of clients I couldn't get to when, Hurricane Harvey came. I couldn't get to them. And then at some point I just started having so many clients. They were like, okay, so what can I teach them, or what can I do? Are you going to do a class? And I really didn't have a lot of time because I was focusing on my own child. And so I was like, okay, look, I'm about to create this journal. It just kind of work through some things. It talks about how to work through depression, how to think through conflict resolution, what you should have done differently. It has notepads where you can doodle or write things out. And then for some of them that weren't as expressive, especially with younger clients, it works because they come bring it in. They're like, oh, miss, this is what I did in my journal. And it's like, okay, so can you tell me a little about it? And, it's cute. And they talk more. So that's pretty much
very
what I do.
Yeah. Oh, we're very thankful for a person like you in the community. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. So one of the reasons why I reached out to you is because I noticed like you do a lot of what Sistas Talk wants to promote, and that's removing the stigma of counseling in our communities, because it's just like we know about it, but it's a very like
brush it under the rug.
Yeah, like we don't really want to touch the topic, and I think it's so important that we continue to talk about it in an open dialogue form, like we're doing today, like we do at your events, like we do at some of the events that we've had, and I guess your future events, because you guys are gonna do something great. I'm pretty sure.
And I'm excited. And partnerships is really important. Like that's a big thing. That's a big thing.
I'm just very proud of like everybody that we had on the show today. And I know that a lot of people will get a lot out of this YouTube link. We're going to put this on YouTube. So because we may be bound in our homes for the next 30 days or so, everybody can tune into this, because it's a lot of vital information that needs to be echoed, into our communities, into our nation, into the world. Because we can't just think about Americans. There's people on the other side too that need this information as well. And the internet is just right there at our fingertips. So you don't have to just be within your state, your city, or your nation. You can make whatever it is that you have to say on a global scale.
And that's what I always encourage, like especially with the youth, and just getting the opportunity to travel and get the exposure. So I talk a lot about that. And we go back to when we were growing up. I started traveling when I got older, you know, and it was because of they did the best they could with whatever they had, but it was like, oh, there's a whole bunch of schools here that you can go to. Why you want to go all across? But it was the exposure. It was the opportunity to see what else is out there. And so I always recommend that. I know sometimes with parents, they're like, no, my baby's leaving. No, I don't want to leave. But I think it's an amazing thing. And just like going back to operating in fear, sometimes it's that fear, but you can step, not to be negative, but you can step out your door and something could happen. You know, if you plan on expanding and we ask God to enlarge our territory, we got to step out of the territory that we in to get it enlarged. So one of the things I encourage traveling, like I've done some work in California, North Carolina, we did like a ministry in Jamaica, and so it was just cool just doing that, and places that I would have probably never, like there are literally people who have never, and that's no shade, but there are literally people who have never left South Park. Like if you go back, they still there. You like, what's up? I'm leaving now, but you know, so you do use every opportunity you have as a stepping stone, as exposure for partnerships, to branch out to whatever you decide your calling might be. So that's why I always tell you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And give them the website again that they can go to.
Oh, you can find me on www.heartwork, it's HEARTWORK, trending.net.
And 2 takeaways I took from this podcast today is E&E, exposure and experience. Yes. You know what I mean? So many more takeaways as well, but those were the ones that stood out, especially for our youth. You know, we just have to keep exposing them. Expose yourselves to the right things, to the things that are going to branch out into a beautiful future for you. Because remember, you at least have the option to decide. So make sure that you're deciding and making the best choice that you can. You know what I mean, in life. And I think you guys are already doing that. Yeah.
Think about that,
definitely.
you know,
I'm so proud of
that
y'all.
40-year-old for them. You know, like think about the 40-year-old Micah and the 40-year-old Heaven, or the 50-year-old Micah and the 50-year-old Heaven that's counting on the 17 and 18-year-old right now.
But look at where they are right now. I don't even have any doubt.
Oh yeah.
And
it's just amazing.
Like, no doubt at all.
And I love it because that says a lot, especially for the Black community. Yes. I mean, you have to think about this world is changing rapidly.
Right.
With all the information and technology that we have, we're still so divided. We talked about that earlier. But I think people like you will really set that tone for understanding amongst other races, amongst other cultures, religions, etc. You know what I mean? Like it starts with you guys. That's what I'm saying. And so you have done an amazing job. Whoever your parents have done an amazing job.
Good job.
And I'm so grateful and thankful to see that change occurring now in our communities. This is self-evident. It makes me so happy. It makes me so, I can kind of like, you know, have you heard of the movie Waiting to Excel? Even though it's not on the same plateau, but I can kind of excel a little bit because it's like, okay.
You know we gonna be okay.
Oh yeah, like when I get old, I know it's people that are gonna like look out for my best interest. You know what I'm saying? So keep it up.
Right there.
And that's true though. You know, always, and I always tell people, especially parents, or even when I was working in a juvenile detention center, you always do right by kids. Now that's one thing you definitely will be blessed when you do right by kids.
Because they're gonna remember.
Yeah, when you pour into them, and that's true. They remember everything. So just just keep up the work that y'all are doing.
I think my biggest thing is making a difference.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, you will.
Yeah.
You already are.
Yeah, you will.
Sure. I think that's something I told her. I was like, something I want to do when I get older is change the economy as we see it, and change our just like how we see each other. You know, because we see each other as we see each other as races, and we're all the same thing. And so it's like,
come on now, what you doing to me? You just keep making me because you know I want to cry because we
making shirts.
You understand, and there's so many. How old are you again?
18.
For prayers.
Oh my God.
For prayers.
There's so many adults that are
a little bit.
There's so many adults triple your age that they still don't see and understand that.
But that's the thing about teenagers though. We will never, and that's what goes back to racism. If you're not getting that topic as well, racism does not. You're not born look at someone different. It's what your parents are thinking. What your parents are putting the seed into you. You know, if once, then my thing was once this older generation goes away, it'd be much better because as children we do not see each other differently. We don't see it, but the only time we do see each other is when someone else sees someone else differently, or if society sees something differently. Like how I remember teenagers, we're coming together and we're like, what y'all doing to Asians kind of be like xenophobic and stuff like that because of y'all thinking that the virus coming from them. We're standing up for them as teenagers. This is teenagers we're talking about doing this stuff like that because we don't see each other differently. We see each other the exact same thing, but we don't look at it as race. We look at it as you're just like me, just a different color.
Oh my God.
And so that's what adults don't realize.
And I will attest to that. Like they do a really good job of that in schools. They are more tolerant than we are. You know, as far as just diversity in so many different ways. They are definitely more tolerant. Whereas with us growing up, you know, there seemed like so much more aggression sometimes.
For sure. And you know what it is.
So I
part
appreciate
of it.
y'all for that.
It's your maturity, of course. That's number one. Number two is the access to more information. You know what I mean? And then also we have more diverse neighborhoods now. Like in our time when we were growing up, everything was segregated for the most part. I mean, you had some diversity, but much more of it is going on today. And I think the only way we can combat that is for that diversity to continue to grow and for us to do a better job of trying to understand each other. And that's I'm really talking to us older people.
True.
And stereotypes. Stereotypes, especially as, you know, me being I'm 5'11", you know, a black male. You don't think I'm supposed to play basketball, right? Or someone who's 6'3", you think I'm supposed to play basketball, or someone who thinks is big and husky supposed to play football. But it's different now. I've seen black young African American kids get into FFA. People think it's for just for the majority, but it's the minority getting into it more. Or you're saying football players playing basketball, players playing football. It's the changes that's happening, and that's how we're all transitioning. It's a big transition going on. It's not going to take a year or so. It's going to take probably decades, but it's transitioning. You'll see more people that go, you supposed to play football. I've seen it myself. An adult is saying to a kid, oh, why are you in this? You're supposed to be playing football, playing basketball. No, that's not the case. So
you've already limited that mindset. Like, okay, well, forget everything else I was thinking about. Maybe this here.
It's almost
but see, they're strong enough to go.
No, I think I've decided on something else. And that's good, though.
It's almost like you put them in a cage. Even as mothers, raising sons. As far as raising sons, most parents will probably be like, okay, well, my son's probably going to end up playing ball. For me as a mother, I'm going to make sure that my kid knows that doesn't have to be the status quo, and you don't have to do this. You can go and be the next lead engineer somewhere. You know what I mean? So just not trying to cage, not only just cage race-wise, cage our men and women and what the things that we say that they could do.
The things that we think they should be doing.
And I think it's also a poverty mindset. Because the easiest way, I would say, like, for me, if you grew up in the hood, you're going to do one or two things. You're going to try to be, so you're going to be a doughboy. There's your flat come up. And then from there, you're going to be a rapper. Or you're either going to be really good at sports and your parents or your grandparents are going to push you till you almost pass out so that a scout can see you. Because that's their way out. That's your only way out. So to someone who has not been educated, or you got to think, everybody doesn't have, once again, exposure. So college may not have been an option for them. So they see, okay, well, why you want to do this? Because you can make a lot of money. I don't even know what engineers do, but I know they're football players because I see them on TV. I know you can make some money doing that. You could go Little League, and then you keep doing that, and then, somebody going to see you. So it's almost like you drive any other ambitions that a kid might have. Like, nope, we going to focus on this.
Well, definitely, but another reason why young African-American kids, especially males, play basketball and they live in poverty is because of their parents. Because of the fact that, especially males, they want to see their mom do better. I'm just like that. I am just like that. If the moment I start seeing my mom sit there, she sit there crying or in just a specific state.
I'm trying to make me cry again. Stop. Oh my goodness.
But she's in the state. But that's male. That's especially sons. You'll see if you go back and listen to a lot of documentaries of basketball players, NFL players. The first thing they're gonna say is the reason why I'm doing this is because of my mom. Now, it don't even have to be because of their dad. It's because of their mom. Their mom plays a big role. Everybody says their dad is more the discipline part. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But the first thing they buy off their paycheck is something that either their mom a house, their mom a car, or stuff like that. It's because of the fact that their parents play a big factor in their success.
And and that's somewhat our idea of success is making sure that I can pay my mama's bills, I can pay my daddy's bills.
Make your parents proud.
Look, they're gonna have their whole show. We're gonna talk.
You know what? I'm gonna do it. Y'all be like a kid show.
Let's talk.
A teen
Let's talk
show.
about that.
They were talking about
but
that
we
before.
reached our time. I'm not even ready to stop. But before we go, shout out where we can find your life skills information, just your website, so they can check out for updates and things like that.
So it's called the Achieving Academy. So www.theachievingacademy.com, or you drop the D, so www.achievingacademy.com. Either one will get you there.
Okay, great. And also, one more time, Miss Davis, can you let us know where they can find you?
I was actually looking up your information. Yeah, you can find me at Heartwork Trending. Actually, my Instagram is the same thing. It's Heartwork Trending. It's HEARTWORKTRENDING. And then the website is www.heartworktrending.net.
Hey, awesome. Thank you guys so much. Tell them one more time your name and your name again before we close out.
My name is Micah.
My name is Heaven.
Thank you so much for giving us your teenage point of views. They're very valid, very respected from us. I mean, I am overwhelmed with emotion right now because I'm so very proud of you guys. I did not expect. I didn't know what to expect, but this superseded my expectations. So definitely thank you. I want to thank you all for coming out to the Sistas Talk Podcast.
Same here. We definitely appreciate having you guys, and I just think that you two are definitely a great testament of also the amazing work that is going on at the Achieving Academy. So we definitely want that to be pinpointed as well. That's definitely a good reason for individuals listening and tuning in today to tune in to check out the Achieving Academy. And we definitely, appreciate all the insight that we received from everybody today. It was definitely amazing.
Shout out to heartworktrending.net.
Definitely.
And as always, we want to thank you guys for tuning in to the Sistas Talk Podcast. We may see you next week. We may not. But I think we have a guest coming in.
Yes, we do have a guest next week. Next week is the 22nd, I believe. So we, at this time, if nothing else changes with all the craziness going on, we will have a doctor, an OBGYN on air. So get your questions together, ladies, for her to answer some amazing questions for you guys on air. I'm hoping and looking forward to her even possibly bringing us some props to even show you guys. So we look forward to that interview as well for next Sunday.
Awesome. All right. And as always, we thank you for tuning into the Sistas Talk Podcast. You guys have a blessed Sunday. Wear your mask. Throw away those gloves. And we'll see you next time.
Don't wear those masks unless you see y'all.